Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here. Today I want to tell you about a little winter to spring transitional bite that happens in a lot of places. About 4 or 5 years ago, I thought maybe this is just a Clear Lake thing because my buddies were doing it on Clear Lake and it was working really well. And then I had it happen at a few other lakes, and then I started doing it in my house. I'm right here in my backyard, and it's really fascinating. So what I want you to picture about this bite, this is a lipless crankbait bite, okay? And it's a heavier lipless crankbait bite. It's not like your super shallow deal. So this is where like LV 500s, blade baits still work remarkably well, Savage Gear fat vibes. The heavier rattle traps work well on the later part of this. So what I want to give in detail here is I'm going to pop up this drone shot. And where you see the position of the boat, we're actually casting across, like, it's almost like I'm gonna say it's a flat, but it's about 6 foot deep in this zone right here. And I'll put a little highlight over the top of that for you. And there's random grass patches sticking up, just here, there. And back behind the boat is where the fish will come in to spawn. So if you imagine you have a lake where the fish may be coming in to spawn, and it's like people talk about, you know, main lake points, secondary points, spawning bays. They get into the back of these creeks, spawn the back of these shallow bays, and they spawn. Well, on a lake that's relatively shallow and flat that has grass, these bass like to be just outside of these normal spawning bays. So where you see that bass spawn, you basically, where you've seen them spawning before, you want to get out as deep as you can and find that grass that's just starting to come up, or grass that didn't die off during the winter. And the cool part about this is it's reactionary. So I'm working a lipless crankbait pretty fast. There's a couple techniques to do. You can let it get down to the bottom and burn it, rip it, and kill it. Let it hit, burn it, rip it, kill it. So it's like giving this reaction. And that's how I'm catching fish at my place once the water's back into the closer to the mid 50 range. As it's closer to 50 and you run in this scenario, that's typically where you want to do the yo-yo off the bottom to get them. This works really, really well. Just outside where you've seen bass spawning, look for the deepest grass. One of the great clues about this is drag your bait slow. Your lipless crankbait, just drag it across the bottom. You'll feel grass, you'll bring it up, you'll find grass on there, and keep going to where you find that, you know, that 8 to 6 foot range, just slightly deeper than oftentimes you see bass spawning. I mean, bass spawn out to 10 foot, but you know what I'm saying here. You'll get grass on your bait, and you want to start finding it to where it gets sporadic. The shallower you get, you'll find just more solid grass every single cast. If you can make 1 out of 3 casts, you get grass. That's typically where those bass are going to stage first. As it gets hotter, they're going to get more into that shallower stuff just outside those spawning beds. That's where the rattle trap comes into play very well, and you can start covering water faster with the rattle trap with a harder vibration. As that water's colder, you want a little tighter vibration to where your red eye shads and your rattle traps, like the red eye shad kind of comes just before the rattle trap, but then the rattle trap always whoops it in shallower water for me. The red eye shad's kind of an in-between, kind of a tighter wobble, runs a little shallower. The fat vibe, the LV 500s, are really good in those low 50s. Below that, that's where your blade baits are gonna come into play. But oftentimes you go from, you know, depending on where you live in the country, you can have, you know, really warmer temperatures in January if you live in the southern parts of the United States, and colder temperatures if you live in the northern parts. I'm right here in Northern California, so right now it's nearing the end of February and my water temperature is about 55 degrees, and I'm already moving over to that more aggressive style, like the fat vibe. The LV 500s are kind of coming away now, and I'm going more into that shallow aggressive vibe, and I'm nearing probably the 1st of March. I'm going to be nearing that rattle trap, but that's much more water dependent, not time of year, so water temperature dependent. So I really want you to keep that in mind, guys. And what we're doing is I'm making the longest cast possible, and I'm going just fast enough on the reel to where I occasionally will feel that grass. I rip it, and then I hesitate, and then I speed up. What's going on is that grass is sticking up here. You catch it, you rip it, and you hesitate. The bass are suspended or holding on the bottom right next to it. If you're going through that, and you can fan a large area, this is the type of thing you can do and sit in a spot all day long and consistently catch, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30 pound, 30 plus bass, not 30 pounds of bass. It's happened multiple times at 30 plus pounds of bass, because I live in Northern California and we do have a lot bigger ones here, but depending on where you live, I'm sure your bass are smaller or just as big as mine, who knows? But it's all about the technique. So I'm ripping it free, going just fast enough to where I touch that grass, I rip it, kill it, speed it up again, touch the grass, rip it, kill it, and it's gonna fall right there and you're gonna get that reactionary strike. If you're not getting that, once again, if you find 1 out of 3 casts, definitely go back, let your bait hit the bottom. The way to really focus in on this is cast out, be positive you're on the bottom, rip it up, and then start that movement. You don't want to make multiple casts way over the top of the grass. Let's say this is the head of the grass. You don't want to be over the top. This is reactionary. You're trying to make them think it's wounded, or you want them to just take a pop shot and say, hey, get the hell out of here. So you want to make sure you're touching that grass. So when you first start off, if you're just learning this technique, let your bait hit the bottom, rip it up, and then start that motion. And it's a guarantee you're going to be making some sort of contact with that vegetation down there. This is a fantastic winter to spring transition technique where you can find the absolute mother lode of bass and knock their lights out when other people are struggling. I'm Nick, the Informative Fisherman, guys. Make sure to follow me on all the popular social media channels. Later.